Hi, everybody, and welcome to Inspiration and Information with Sneha, a community where we support each other, empower each other, share inspiring real life stories that will help you to live a life in a way that you love and in a very powerful manner. Today, I have with me on my show Prema Sri Devi. 2 decades of breaking news with some of India's top television brands, she decided to quit mainstream media and founded The Probe, an independent news media platform that tells stories that matter to people. Unfiltered, solution based, ad free journalism, and much more. Her team has a bunch of dynamic people who create stories they put their heart and soul into. It is a pleasure to be talking to you, Prema. So, a very warm welcome to you, Prema.
Thank you, Sneha. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me in this conversation. I'd like to start by asking you this question that you've had a very successful career with some of the top media houses. And what made you start something like this, your own digital news platform, The Probe? If you could please tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah. Sneha, so I have been in the television industry for the last 15 years. I've worked with some of the big television brands in the country. And prior to that, for 5 years, I was running a weekly neighborhood newspaper. Now, the reason why I decided to start The Probe was because if you see the kind of content that is being churned out by mainstream television media houses, most of the content is related to events. They're either talking about events or they're talking about stories which usually comes from the wires,
Right.
like ANI or PTI related news. And reporters just give lives. And if you look at a news cycle, which is say from 9 to 9, most of the stories are repetitive, and most of the stories are not original stories. Of course, there are a lot of good journalists doing a lot of good content on television as well, but the majority of the content is related to wire services, or it's related to events. For instance, a politician went to this particular rally, or someone is going to take part in a big event, and things like that. I really feel that it's time to humanize news. News is not about celebrities or about personalities or about politicians alone, and this is something that I have learned through my experience. Because if you ask your own family members whether they are interested in the kind of news that is being given to them, by way of newspapers or by way of television channels, most of them feel that if you take the 9 o'clock debate, it is the same issue which more or less you see on all the television channels. There are so many windows and the same set of experts talking on the same subject almost on a daily basis. And I don't see where the value is being given to the audience.
Yeah, in fact, I have also seen, the focus is more on them saying that we are the first ones to break this to you. And exactly, I don't really relate to it as something that is of value.
So what I feel is it's time, when we started The Probe, I really felt that it is time to stop this process of breaking news and time to just step back and look at unbreaking news.
Right.
Because that's what is going to give value to the audience. Because if audience is going to be there with you for that 2 minutes or for that 4 minutes, reading your story or watching you on air or seeing what you're producing, if the audience is going to give you that time, their time is valuable.
Exactly.
And we all exist in this industry. I really don't want to call this an industry. In this profession, we all exist because of the audience. And if we cannot provide value to the audience, and if we cannot see the human element of news, then there's no point in being in calling ourselves journalists. So one of the reasons I started The Probe was I thought that I definitely respect all the organizations that I've worked with, because without them I would not have gained the experience, or I would not have gained my sources. I would not have been able to do those stories. If I would not have been given those opportunities in life, I would definitely not have learned as much. But apart from learning, when you're working with these organizations, you also learn not only how to do news, but how to not do news.
Right.
And that, I think, is a valuable lesson that I've learned. So I started The Probe, because I really felt that we need to see the human element of news. There should be a lot of human interest stories. B, I really felt that there should be a model of news which is not advertisement dependent, or which is not dependent on funds from either people connected to political parties or people connected to corporate lobbies. Because if there is news which is connected, which is funded by corporate houses, then usually what happens is the media houses would want to serve the interest of those corporate houses. So if news is produced by funded by politicians or political lobbies, then usually we see that on screen. You know what I'm talking about. We all know. So the moment somebody, a political organization or a political party supports a news organization, then the audience doesn't get unfiltered news. They only get to see the propaganda of that particular political party. So then what the primary problem with news organizations in the country today is the model, the revenue model.
Right.
So if we delve deeper into it, if we can formulate a revenue model which is non-dependent on ads or on political or corporate funding, then I think we'll really get to do stories that will serve people. So when we started the probe, we went out in the market and we told people that, hey, listen, we are not going to take money from any of these groups who have their own interest and who would want us to do their propaganda. We will also not take money from, we will also not air advertisements. So we don't accept ads. We don't accept, fundings from these so-called interested parties. But what we are doing is we have thrown open a subscription model. That is, people who are interested in supporting the journalist or the news organization, they can pay for the news that they get access to. Right. So this way, what happens is people become the owners. They help the brand grow. Because they trust the brand and they know that when there are no other interested parties there, and it's only people who are funding a particular news organization, then the audience can be sure that they will get unfiltered, unbiased news, because we don't have anybody else to serve other than the people. Exactly. So we only have the public interest in mind. That's wonderful. That is why I started the probe.
That is, I think, a great initiative, Prema. And in fact, for all those who are watching right now, I will mention the link to the probe in this description box, and people can just go ahead and subscribe. So, Prema, I've seen your team has been covering some really impactful stories, and every time I see the stories, they literally put their mind, soul, and heart to it. And I'm sure that does not come without them having a great leader. So as a leader, what are the values that you instill in your team? If you could just share something about that with us.
Yeah, Sneha, I must tell you that whatever we have achieved in this limited period, it's hardly been 5 months since we've launched the probe. But everything that we have achieved in this limited period, it's all because of the team. If the team isn't there, then the probe is not there, I'm not there. And you will be surprised to know that a team of bright young minds are actually running the probe. My role is very limited. Yes, I just play the role of maybe deciding or, approving stories or all of that. But the ideas comes from my team members. And these are all youngsters. We have a great team of young reporters who want to break stories, not break stories, but who want to unbreak stories. And we really have produced a lot of impactful stories, as you rightly said. For instance, stories that the other media organization would not have really covered. So we don't believe in doing too many stories. We don't do too many stories. We might do, say, right now we are doing maybe 5 or 6 stories a week. But then what we are looking at is not quantity, but quality.
Right.
The audience is anyways getting a lot of news stories, say, take for instance, a Times of India or a Hindustan Times or a Hindu, or take for instance, all these news channels put together. I mean, the audience has access to a lot of news stories. But if you look at how news is done, it's pretty much, it's metrocentric. You have pockets of places. In let's say in Delhi, you know that there is one pocket, say North Block and South Block. There are a lot of reporters who are there in North Block and South Block. There is one group of reporters which is always there in front of Arvind Kejriwal's office, or there is one set of reporters which who are there in front of the Delhi police headquarters. So there are pockets, and people have access to the same news.
Right.
Everybody gets access to that particular news. They deliver it to their channels, that the channels air it, and what the reporters don't do, the wires are doing. So it's the same cycle of news which is being churned out from the same pockets, which is given to those same media houses, through agencies and through reporters, and it keeps getting circulated, maybe packaged differently. Some one channel gives one headline, but it's the same news. Another channel gives a spin and changes the headline.
I've noticed that, definitely.
You've noticed that.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be another person getting into this crowd and producing the same content and just saying that, hey, you know what, we are producing 100 stories a day. It's not, frankly speaking, producing events, number of stories a day is not difficult.
Right.
But what is difficult is actually producing stories which others are not producing. So
Right.
what we are doing is we are trying to do stories, delve deeper, as the probe itself suggests. It's not about investigation. Probing is just about getting deeper, delving deep into a subject. We are trying to produce video content, which is produced really well. If you check out some of our news stories, like we did a story on maggot infested people. That's like one of the worst forms of human suffering during the pandemic. Or if you see COVID related videos, these are excellent videos produced by youngsters. These are not people who have 5, 10, 15 years of experience in the news, but these are people who definitely have a very strong grounding in journalism, and they know where they are going. So the thing is, if you look at the kind of impactful content that we have produced, we, for instance, I can talk about one of the first stories that we did when we launched. We did story. This was during the pandemic. I mean, even now we're facing COVID, but this was during the peak of the pandemic. And so we did a story on child grave diggers of India. So all children as young as 7 years, 8 years, 9 years of age, digging graves in the heart of the national capital, and also in other cities in the country. And we thought about the story very deeply, in the sense, what is it that is driving kids who should be going to school or who should be studying, but what they're doing is they're digging graves. And some of the children were seen digging graves of people who've died out of COVID. So that was a video documentary that we did, a video story that we did. And it's even the way we treat a story, it's not just about showcasing a problem that is there in the society. Right. It is about moving beyond that, because every story has a human element. Yeah. So as journalists, of course, I clearly keep telling my team that it's not, journalism is not activism. There is a thin line between journalism and activism. But journalism just doesn't stop at reporting a story.
Right. Because
earlier, in the earlier days, people used to feel that most journalists, senior journalists, would tell you that, the old school of thought is you just report and you move away. What happens is not your problem. But I really feel that it is our problem. It is a collective problem as a society. As journalists, we just can't report and just move away. We have to do follow-ups. We have to ask those hard questions to the authorities and see if they are acting or not. And I'm not saying that building pressure is our job, but our job is to see that somewhere the victims get justice. And they get justice not through activism, but through journalism. Because journalism is a very powerful tool that we journalists have access to.
Right.
Now, for instance, before the social media, before internet became very powerful, journalists would just report and the job was done. But now internet, the social media is acting as an intermediary between not the journalist and the public, but between the newsmakers and the public.
Right.
So then if somebody wants to give out a news, an information, they use the social media and they're able to reach out to the audience. So where is the relevance of the journalist?
True.
So I really feel that if journalists should stay relevant in a time in the internet era, then journalism should move beyond just telling a story.
Yeah.
Because what technology is replacing, technologists are replacing journalists. So if journalists should stay relevant, then journalists should move beyond technology. So we can't catch up with the speed of technology, but what a journalist has that technology doesn't have is
Right.
the human aspect of news. Technology can't feel, but a journalist definitely feels for news. The human element is something that cannot be taken away from us. So I really feel that if we humanize stories, every story I believe has a face,
Right.
a human face. Every story either tells something about human suffering, or it talks about loss. It talks about any story. Every story has a human aspect to it. It has a face to it. So the more human, the more we delve into the human element of stories, I think we do justice as journalists. So that's our school of thought at the Probe. So we try to do stories that are in public interest and not of public interest. Why I say that is, when you say of public interest, it's about Riya Chakrabarti was taken into this particular agency, and she was wearing red salwar and long earrings. Who is interested in it?
And there was so much more happening during the same time, but the focus was just in that.
Exactly, and these are stories that some journalists think are stories of public interest. But there is a clear difference there. We believe in doing stories that are in public interest. So when we say that we are doing a story on child grave diggers of the country, these are stories in public interest, not of public interest. So that's one of our, I can say that's our motto.
No, definitely. I think all that you've said is really, really important. Like for me personally, when I had a look at that story, who would have ever known that while all this suffering is going on, there's another chunk of the community who's also suffering, doing all of this, and they're not able to study. And what's unique about the Probe is the solution-based approach. That is what I like about it. And I think really, once again, it's a great thing that you are doing with your team, really. So I'll just
Yeah.
thank you. Prema, there was this time I remember when the second wave had just started, and you were yourself in the burial ground and next to those bodies. And you've been, people know you to have covered such bold stories. And also, there was this time when you carried out a sting operation on ISIS men in India. I think that is so, so brave of you, Prema. And I want to understand what prompts you to get head on into such difficult, dangerous situations. Like, what gives you that strength?
Yeah. So regarding the story on men belonging to the ISIS network. So I had done this for one of my former organizations. And when it comes to sting operations, I'm someone, I don't believe in sting operations, but in television, when you say investigative journalism, people generally think that investigative journalism is about sting operations. But if you see on the Probe, we've not done a single sting operation so far. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do sting operations, because all organizations, you take Al Jazeera or CBS or ABC or BBC or CNN, every news organization at one point or the other, they do sting operations. But I really believe that you should do sting operations only as a last resort. Okay. If there is no other way to prove that some major wrongdoing is happening, if there is no other way under the sun that you can prove it, then you resort to a sting operation. But again, when you do a sting operation, there are so many things to be kept in mind. The privacy of the persons involved. We have seen so many sting operations that have ruined lives of people. In one of the sting operations that I've seen personally, somebody lost his life. So you don't do it on a victim, you do it on a perpetrator, and you do it only if the story is so big and it is in public interest, and there is no other way to prove the wrongdoing. Then you resort to a sting operation. And I would say that if you take 100 stories in a journalist's career, if you take let's say that he or she has done 100 stories, and maybe in 1 or 2 stories you end up doing a sting operation because it really warrants that. But it can't be the norm when it comes to investigative journalism, because there are so many other tools in investigative journalism that you can use. You can use statements, you can use documents, you can use leads from sources, and then you can go on to prove that something has happened. There are multiple tools available that can be used to prove a story. Sting operation is not the thing, but this particular story, it really warranted it on the ISIS network. Now, after we did that sting operation, I think we did it on 5 to 7 boys, and then following that, after a year, one of the guys on whom I did the sting operation, the NIA went ahead and arrested the person. Now he's in jail, and he's facing terrorism related charges. And he was caught later, I was told by my source in the NIA, that he was caught just 2 days before the Independence Day, when he was going to carry out a terror attack. So in that terror, if that would have happened, he was going to it would have been a lone wolf kind of a terror attack. And if that would have happened, then I'm sure that it would have cost, I mean, people would have died, or people would have been injured. And I think a lot of lives were saved because this person was caught at the right time. Just 2 days before, but a year before we had done his sting, and we had said that, see, this person has this intention and he's moving around and he's dangerous and things like that. But then the arrest happened a year later. So it was a very important story. So we did a sting operation and it worked. But I definitely tell my team at the Probe that not to think about sting operations. And always try and do stories through your own hard work. I know going somewhere and with a spy cam, it's easy. It's the easy way out to prove a story. But going and meeting a source, getting leads from a source, and then proving that the leads are right, doing cross checks, multiple verifications, using various tools to prove that wrongdoing, it's not easy. It's very time consuming. But at the end of the day, when the story gets on air and when the story gets published, you get a lot of satisfaction. You know that you've followed the right method to tell the story. So yes, and you also spoke about the COVID related story. That was for the Probe, and it was a very difficult time because we went into the graveyard, not in Delhi, not expecting to see what we were about to see. For instance, we thought that we would just go into the graveyard to take stock of the situation, to understand how many people are dying and what is the situation in the graveyards. But then what we saw there on the field, it was shocking. We saw a situation where people had dumped dead bodies and they had fled. And we couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't understand why would people dump dead bodies of their kith and kin and just scoot. So there were so many dead bodies lying there. That shows the inhuman side of human beings. There were so many dead bodies lying around, like several dead bodies, and people didn't know who it belonged to. So people would just come in the night, dump the dead bodies in front of the graveyards, and then they would disappear. And then these dead bodies would be buried. These dead bodies, some of these dead bodies would be buried, some of these dead bodies would be burnt, and it would be cremated by strangers who are not related, unrelated to these people who have died out of COVID. So it was an eye-opener, and it was an important story that had to be told, that while we all talk about COVID, we all talk about death, we all talk about government and numbers and fudging and all of that, it was a story to introspect. that amongst us, there are also people who would just, throw dead bodies of their own family members. And we heard so many stories. One of the persons told me that I actually saw a person who didn't want to cremate a dead body of his family member, but he did not forget to take the ring of the finger.
God.
Okay. People who are heartless and people who didn't want to take part or even be there around the dead body, but they were interested in getting thumb impressions. So the people who run those cemeteries and graveyards have told us horrible stories of what happens during those times. So yeah, it was a great experience, and we produced that story well, and we intend to do more such stories. Yeah.
That's really nice. And yeah, I mean, one thing is for all the budding journalists also, I think this particular piece is very important. In fact, even I didn't know that, how sting operation should be the last resort. And yeah, we also got to see how people are so self-centered, so selfish, even though it is your own family member. And also there are people who really care, like, no matter what, they're there to serve other people. So it's brilliant, like you covering such stories. Also, I'd like to know, Premana, how does your family look at all of this? I'm sure they support you, but are they worried for you? How do they deal with all of this? Because if my sister was on ground doing all of this, I would be terrified.
Yeah, I must say that my family has been very supportive, and it's very important, especially when you're a girl and you've been on the field for so many years. For me, it's been 20 years in the field now. So without family support makes it a lot easier. My parents are in Bangalore. They have always been very supportive. Not the traditional kind of parents who would say that, we, 22 years get married, or, 25 years get married, 30 years biological clock ticking. I'm very, very happy and blessed to have a family which completely understands what I want in life, because I have prioritized journalism over a lot of other things. I'm not saying that my team has to be like that, or I'm not saying that that is the way, but that's how I am. So for me, I see the next, at least the next 2 or 3 decades, if I'm alive, to completely focus on my career and, to keep this going, because this is what gives me the drive, and this is what makes me, it keeps me going, and I feel happy about it. So I really feel everybody should do what they like. And journalism is not a profession, it is a way of life.
Right.
Like they say, Hinduism is a way of life, it's not a religion. So I really feel journalism is also a way of life, and it's a beautiful profession, and there's so many stories out there, so little time for us as journalists to report those stories. So and I always feel time is running short, and we must tell as many stories that matter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'd just like to conclude by asking you this question. Prema, why should people pay for news, and why this membership subscription model to keep journalism independent? If you could just talk to us about that.
Yeah. Now, see, people have to pay for news to keep journalism independent. Otherwise, just tell me, journalism, how do journalists survive? For instance, when you talk about an investigative story, so today, if I have to go to Prayagraj and report on stories of children who have been dying there, I'm being told that even in Gorakhpur, children have been dying. So if a journalist has to go there from Delhi, or from say Tiruvananthapuram, or from anywhere, if a journalist has to go there with a team, do research, stay there, because a story is not something that's just happening and you just go and report. Right. It's about research. So, everything costs money. So research, time, energy, resources, so much is involved when it comes to an investigative story. So who pays for it? Traditionally, advertisers have been paying for it. And even then, we don't see those kinds of stories emerging out of mainstream media organizations. So I really feel that when people pay for news, they are helping a news organization to grow and do the stories that should be reported. For instance, if someone is paying, let's say that you are paying for to purchase the Times of India in the morning, in the morning, you are already paying for a news organization that has the bandwidth, which has the resources, which is already making a lot of money through advertisements, and they have their own projects and funding pattern and everything. Your subscription is just adding to it. Yes, that is important. That is also helping the organization survive. But when you pay for content created by an independent journalist, or when you pay for an independent news media organization, you're not paying for the immediate gain. It's not like I'm paying money, I'm getting this. That transactional nature of business, that is a place where audience needs to think that, are you really paying for the growth, for nurturing a news organization? For instance, if you're paying to keep news free, today I might not be able to produce as many stories. But the more the audience pays, the more I would grow. I would be able to recruit more journalists who have the passion, who want to do those kind of stories, but who don't have the resources and who don't have that kind of an opportunity. So the more people pay, they are helping us grow. In the sense, when a person pays for an independent news organization or a digital news media organization, there are a lot of digital news media organizations that are doing excellent work. Right. So when the public, when they pay for these independent digital news media platforms, they're just not paying for a product. Journalism is a process, not a product. They're actually nurturing it's like nurturing a small plant to giving it all the resources to grow into a tree, which will ultimately bear fruit. The public, that perception that it is a transactional business, like it's not like Netflix that you pay 400 or 600 rupees. And then you think that, okay, I'm getting so many movies, journalism, it's a cleanup that is happening through journalism. So it's not a short-term gain, it is a long-term gain. Because if journalism should survive, independent content creators and journalists should be there to tell stories that others are not telling.
Absolutely.
So, and it's not just about one person growing, it's about an organization growing. It's about people coming together and taking ownership of that organization. People coming together and deciding that, yes, I'm going to support this organization. I'm going to let not only me, I'm going to tell my family members, I'm going to tell my relatives to support this organization. We want this organization to grow. In 2 years from now or 5 years from now, I want to see this organization recruit more people, more journalists, do more impact stories. Today, if they are doing one story that is probably changing the life of 10 children, tomorrow I would want them to have the bandwidth to be able to do 10 stories or 100 stories.
Okay.
So it's a long-term process. So I really feel that when people pay for news, they help journalism survive. And my request is people should not think it as a transactional relationship initially.
Yeah.
They should give us the time and bandwidth to do stories, to do research and grow.
True. Very true. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Prema. So I'm just going to repeat this, that I'm mentioning the link in the description box for you to go ahead and subscribe to the Probe. And also, I'm ending now. So I want to know from you, I have this question that I ask every guest on my show. What is that one message you would like to give somebody who's watching us right now?
Yeah. So the one message that I would like to give is support solutions journalism, support impact journalism, because impact journalism is something that will change people's lives. Yeah. So, for instance, when you pay for news, the story that I do might not directly affect you, but it definitely affects a lot of other people. The underprivileged people who might not have access to the news. For instance, we did a story on a Gurugram boy who committed suicide out because of cyberbullying. Even before Probe had launched, we were constantly in touch with the family. We were doing follow-ups. We were trying to ensure that the family gets justice. And after the Probe launched, 3 months into the launch of the Probe, the NHRC took cognizance of that case and they transferred the case to the CPCID. Then we did an interview with the father, and the father said, thanked us. He said it's because of the Probe that Probe has supported us a lot. So
Wonderful.
Stories like this, or for instance, we did a story related to sanitary hygiene, on sanitary pads. So menstrual hygiene in slums in the national capital. So when we went out to those slums, when my team went, what they found is in the national capital, there are women who don't know what sanitary pads are. There are women whose interviews we got who said that they've lost their uteruses because of poor menstrual hygiene. So that's happening in the national capital. Can you imagine the situation in far-flung areas or in villages? So when we put out that story, then an organization came forward, an NGO came forward and said, hey, you know what? You've gone to 4 slums. Now we are going to distribute sanitary pads to all those 4 slums. And those women in those 4 slums, today they have access to sanitary pads for 2 whole years.
Wow, that's brilliant.
And this is it's a 4 or 5 minute story that we did. Now, it's not only about having access to sanitary pads, but these people, the organization also went in all those 4 slums and they did workshops. And we were also part of it. So I think this kind of a journalism is reformative journalism. So when you, Sneha, when you are paying for news, you might not be paying for your gain, but at least you know that you're paying this money to an organization which is trying to do journalism that will have an impact on a lot of other lives. Definitely. So that is why I really believe my request to all the viewers who are watching this show is that please pay for independent journalists, for independent digital news media organizations. I'm not asking that you must pay, you must become a member of the Probe, but I'm saying that whichever digital media organization you like, there are a lot of good digital media organizations that are doing excellent work, but go to their websites, platforms, check out the news stories that they are doing. If you like even a single story that has been done by them, if it is a solution-centric story, if it is an impact story, if it is an investigative story, then I really feel that if you have the paying power, you must come forward and pay. Otherwise, what will happen is journalism will not survive. It's just going to die without independent content creators. It's because people like us have taken the risk of getting out of comfortable jobs in mainstream media houses that was giving us a good salary, that was giving us airtime, and all of that. We've left all of that, and we are today on the streets to report on stories that matter to the people, only hoping and believing that there is an audience which still wants news, which is unbiased, which is impactful. So that is my request. Please pay for news.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should all do our bit, and it's so beautiful, like the way you're impacting so many people. Those who have subscribed to the Probe, those who are viewing your story, making a huge difference in people's lives. I think that is brilliant, Prema. And it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think in this short conversation, there is so much that I have learned. And I'm very sure that people who are watching this, budding journalists, everybody basically is definitely going to have some kind of impact on their lives. And I really wish that each one of them subscribes to the Probe. So thank you for your time.
Sneha, thanks a lot. And it was wonderful talking to you. The pleasure was completely mine.
Thank you. Thanks, Prema. So I will be back soon with another episode and with another inspirational story, informational story. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you.